Blake Cousins, Third Phase of Moon, broadcasting live, taking calls from around the world. We've got a special guest all the way from Utah as well. In regards to the Utah UFO Fest 2017, it's the second annual festival, and it's happening between the 16th and 17th. Basically, some of the main attractions and keynote speakers are going to be incredible. One of them is going to be a presentation of Bob Lazar's unseen video documentary / project that nobody's seen yet, and now it's going to be seen for the first time at this event. So it's my pleasure to bring you Nathan. Nathan's in charge of this event, and wow, he's got a UFO sighting he's going to be sharing with you as well. So let's bring him in. Let's bring in the caller. Nathan.
We're putting on this event because, we want to change the stigma that exists in our community and abroad regarding the topic of UFOs and the discussion of the ET. So we're coming at this from more of a sociological perspective, not so much, there's enough organizations out there that are, trying to explain this thing scientifically. We don't seek to do that. We kind of embrace, let's say, per se, the UFO folklore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense to me. Let's break it down. This Bob Lazar unseen video. Now that's getting my interest. What do we expect, or what do the people expect to see when they show up to this screening in Utah of this unseen video that Bob Lazar is going to be putting out?
We have a gentleman in our organization by the name of Jim Allen. He was in that inner circle that kind of encouraged Bob Lazar to go public for his own self-preservation in order to, preserve his life. A lot of people think, they write him off as some sort of fraud, but the fact is that I personally believe Bob Lazar's account. I was at the UFO Congress 2015 in Phoenix, Arizona, when Bob Lazar made his first public appearance in over 25 years. And so, Jim, the guy that's presenting the film, he was with John Lair and others down in Las Vegas in the late 80s when Bob Lazar came to John Lair and with the story that he had been working on reverse engineered ET craft. So Jim has had a career, and he's built hot rods over the years. He built up boxed derby cars. I mean, he's built the kind of cars you hear about people, racing across the salt flats out, the Bonneville salt flats. So he's been doing a lot of this stuff for decades. And, back in the 80s, he was networking with people who were building custom cars. And, Bob Lazar liked to, fiddle around with, that type of stuff as well. He wasn't just a scientist. He had a deep interest in, hot rods and just building custom-made cars. And so that's kind of how Jim got involved with all this. But he is presenting a film at the fest. It was a kind of a backup film that he was given, as well as 12 other individuals. They were given the same copy of this interview, this film that presents Bob Lazar himself talking into the camera, and it was to be used as a backup in case anything happened to Bob Lazar, and for some reason they weren't able to get his revelation on the air. Then that's why they were keeping this in reserve in case they needed to use it if it didn't go live, or if something prevented George Knapp from being able to take the interview live with Bob Lazar. So that's my understanding of it. I did watch the film with Jim. He's never really showed it publicly before, and so this is a 45-minute film starring Bob Lazar, and he's just basically himself back in the 80s in this film, and it's unedited, and it's 45 minutes long. So We're going to be showing it on a gigantic movie screen.
So this is neat. It's almost like a fail-safe trigger, almost like a backup. Just in case Bob Lazar was snuffed out, we had this backup testimony. Now, for the first time, people are going to be able to see this. That's quite exciting. What about you have some Navajo Native Indians speaking there as well in regards to the UFO phenomenon, Skinwalker Ranch. Can you tell me about these Native Indians? It seems like these guys are very spiritual and serious indeed.
Well, I've spent a lot of years networking with a lot of Native American communities around the American Southwest. My family, we mine alabaster stone, and we trade it with Indian artisans all over the American Southwest. We sell this rough stone to stone carvers around Santa Fe and, around the Navajo Nation, the Four Corners area. So, I've been doing this. My grandpa's been doing this for about 50 years, and I kind of took up the tradition in 2008. My grandpa, Paul Amaral, he passed away in 2011, and I continued the tradition. But I also work as a photographer. I travel around, and I've networked with a lot of communities just working as a photographer. And, I met some of these individuals at the UFO Congress in 2015 down in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And I met the Rangers down there. And they're going to be coming to the event. They're going to present their case studies on the UFO phenomenon at the Three Peaks Recreation Area at our event. And we also have Clifford Mahooty, who is from the Zuni tribe. He worked as an environmental government engineer, and he's retired now, but he's also going to be presenting. A lot of people don't realize that, I asked Clifford why is he on the UFO circuit, and he told me that, and don't take this wrong, I don't have a big problem with New Agers, but I do have a problem with people who misrepresent Native culture, and they don't respect it, or they steal from those cultures, or they misrepresent them basically. And so, Clifford Mahooty's kind of traveling. He's kind of on the circuit right now to kind of set the record straight, to kind of educate people. He's kind of his knowledge of this phenomenon it's coming from the source. It's coming from him, not someone who's misrepresenting the Zuni culture. So, we have other people coming to the event as well. Like, I don't know if you knew about the Dulce Base Conference over in Dulce, New Mexico. The Hickory Apaches have begun putting on a conference over there, and they're kind of blowing the cap on the Dulce Base. It's over there in Dulce, New Mexico, and so they're wanting to come to our event as well. I think because what we're trying to do this year is kind of give more of a voice to an indigenous perspective on this phenomenon, because I think I've met a lot of Native people that are not totally into it, or they're not interested in it, but there are some people who I've talked to in some of these communities that have a very deep interest in it, and sometimes they try to interpret it through their culture. That's the way I see Clifford doing it from his perspective. And from the Navajo Rangers, they've obviously been on television, but they're also trying to go around to educate the public. They're not getting paid to do this. They're doing it as volunteers, just like I am putting on this event. I'm heading a 501c3. I don't get paid to do any of this. In fact, I've been dumping my own money into it. And back to Bob Lazar, when I saw him appear publicly at the UFO Congress down in Phoenix, he was pretty nervous. He didn't look like he was, he didn't know how to, you could tell he had some sort of stage fright, because he was just really nervous in front of a large crowd. And, everything that Jim has told me over the last few years about Bob, like his nuances, they just checked out when I saw Bob in person. He's not one that is a big fan of the limelight. He's not one that's out seeking attention. And, that was a pretty big revelation to me, that that, you know, in a lot of ways he didn't even want to be there at the conference. And, you know, he was kind of surprised that people, you know, as enthusiastic about him as they were when he came, when he heard feedback on his visit and his Q&A with George Knapp there. A lot of people just seemed, he just seemed genuinely surprised that people actually were enthusiastic about having him come to the event. So, like, he hadn't been, like I said, he hadn't been in the public eye like that in front of a large audience for a couple decades. So, you know,
maybe a little stage fright, and a little bit naive in regards to thinking that the people were interested in Bob Lazar's statements, because Bob Lazar is basically the smoking gun of eyewitness testimony of what it's like dealing with this technology at Area 51 and revealing S4 and all this other stuff. So, it's going to be quite exciting to see this never-before-seen footage. Are you going to be having any unseen documentary that nobody's ever seen, except now you have?
Well,
it must be quite interesting.
Yeah, we also, Joe Montaldo, I don't know him personally, but I know he's makes the rounds quite a bit in the UFO niche, and he's going to be presenting with Jim Allen. They're going to be presenting together at the event, and I know that he's showing a short film that's going to be about the alien-human hybrid program. So we're trying to keep this event as family-friendly as possible, but I know that material like that may not be totally suitable for little kids. It might spook them and stuff. So, you know, when people are coming to the event, they're going to have to use that parental guidance when if they decide to bring kids out to the event, because, I mean, this is in my opinion, this is kind of the reality of it, and you can't really sugarcoat it. You have to look at everything, you know. And the reason why I call it UFO folklore is because you can't prove or disprove it. There's, you know, it's like with ufology itself. There's a lot of mystery tied to it, and I'm college educated. I'm a sociology. I have a few math classes left that I got to get out of the way, of course, but I plan to go to graduate school once I finish up my degree. And I've you know, spent my whole career writing research papers and writing, you know, I had to write a big capstone, but when you're doing that kind of research, you learn how to employ qualitative and quantitative research methods in order to create an argument or a thesis. And I applied I've applied my education towards the data that I've seen within within the body of UFO folklore. And personally, I don't think it's all folklore. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and you know, and I think, you know, historically speaking,
yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
there is a known fact that the UFO phenomenon is real. It's not folklore, in my opinion. And with millions of people every year just in the United States claiming they've been abducted by aliens, not even the millions that said that they've seen a UFO. It's already undeniable that there's a phenomenon going on. Let me ask you, are you going to be doing any UFO events at night, trying to do like an outdoor event looking for any UFO sightings? So maybe a summoning kind of event?
In the future, we're probably going to be scheduling the event at a later date when it's more darker skies. This year, when people come out to the event, there's going to be a bright moon out. And so, but what's really unique about our event here is we have some of the most darkest skies in North America. Our event's taking place in a very rural part of southern Utah, very close to the national parks, very close to Zion Canyon National Park. And people that come here, they see the sky, and they've never seen so many stars before. So, I mean, we're literally, it's like looking through a telescope or, you know, being above the atmosphere, because the stars are just so unreal in my part of the state here, in our part of the country. And so, you know, a lot of UFO festivals are taking place near metro areas and you know, where there's a lot of pollution and just a lot of light pollution, and people can't see stars as well. So that's what makes our event unique, is because we're out in the desert, kind of like Burning Man. I'm not saying we're like Burning Man. We're trying to make this, like, again, as family friendly as possible, but this is a primitive camping format, this festival. So people, last year when we had our event, we just did it for one night. This year we're doing it for 2 nights. And last year we did a film documentary about Travis Walton. Travis Walton traveled clear up from Snowflake, Arizona to join us. He came up on his own dime because we're not like paying it's not like we're paying the researchers to come here. They're coming here to show us support for what we're trying to do to get this thing off the ground every year. And so this is more of a community collaborative effort. This year it was amazing just to see the community come together because they wanted to see this thing happen. And so it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. But when Travis came here last year, we were watching his documentary that he put on that was a very interesting documentary. He came up here and presented his real story versus in light of what the Hollywood version was. The Hollywood version of his story, they turned it into a horror film, and they took artistic liberty with his story. But what happened to him in real life was a very different story from what people have come to understand from the movie Fire in the Sky. So, we were watching this documentary out there, and there was a whole slew of people out there that were constantly looking up at the sky because, they were watching this film screening out underneath the stars, underneath this full moon, and it just kind of felt mysterious out there with people, with all these families just like looking up at the sky. So it's kind of a unique event because we're out there in a primitive setting, in a primitive campground, and we're putting on this event. There's it's literally just outhouses and a generator that we're running off of out there, and so it's unlike any other event going on regarding UFO festivals and UFO conferences. So
yeah, it sounds like its own experience out there. And with the majestic
it
night
is.
skies out there, who knows what people might see. We got a few minutes left. I want you to tell everybody again when and where this is. But before we get to that, you were telling me a little earlier that you had a UFO sighting in your lifetime, and this is maybe one of the reasons. There's a lot of wind going on here, but maybe this is one of the reasons why you started this event. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
what's up with the? Go ahead with your UFO.
I've had 3 sightings that occurred between 2013 and 2015. I haven't seen anything since, but the 3 locations where I had these sightings, one was out on Extraterrestrial Highway in 2013, where I saw orange orbs, and it's a very long story, and it's very detailed. We did manage to capture video of them. I managed to capture 2 different video segments, but the first time when these things appeared, these orange orbs, they came out from behind a mountain, and they came over the mountain and down into a valley on our way back to Caliente from Rachel, Nevada. And it was in December of 2013. And the first time I tried to capture video of these things, it's almost like they were aware of the fact that I was trying to pull out my camera and capture evidence, because they just kind of like blinked out right when I went to fire up my camera. And I'm a photographer, and I had left all my gear back home because I had just bought a new camera system that I was testing, and it was a Nikon 1 system. It was a smaller, sensor and stuff, but I was just taking it out there that day just to kind of test it.
What makes you think they weren't a Chinese lantern? Because a lot of these orbs are mistaken for Chinese lanterns when they blink out.
Well, these
when
things
they blink
ended up
out
putting on a light show. These things were not Chinese lanterns. These things came out from behind a mountain, and they maneuvered, and they went down into the valley. And there's these huge Great Basin valleys that are like 20 miles, where you can just literally see the highway disappear into the valley from the mountain, or from opposite mountain ranges. And so we were right in the adjacent valley near Area 51 when we saw these orange orbs, and they weren't orange flares, because flares don't maneuver and flares don't disappear and reappear. So we literally watched these things for like 45 minutes, just put on a light show for us and at that time of year, in the summer out there during tourism season, there's hardly any cars out there, let alone the winter in December, when me and a friend of mine, Nate Lamb from SEU, he's a nursing student, he didn't really believe in this stuff, but he ended up witnessing this, and he was telling me to cut my engine in one of the videos where we're capturing evidence of these objects. and we couldn't hear nothing when we cut the video. And the video doesn't really do justice to what we saw because I had a wide-angle lens. And, when something's kind of far away, it's even further away with a wide-angle lens. So it's like hard to, to capture anything that would have justified, that did justice to what we saw with our own naked eye.
Sure.
And so that was just
well, sometimes,
first. Yeah.
Sometimes capturing UFO videos is tricky business, and it's not necessarily the video itself. It's the people's testimony, eyewitnesses. You had your buddy with you. This wasn't a Chinese lantern or Chinese lanterns up in the sky or a flare. These things were doing maneuvers that you couldn't explain close to Area 51. Come on, people. These are UFOs in the sky. This is good.
There's the possibility that it could have been some sort of strange military hologram technology that I've never witnessed before that's not known to the general public. I mean, I can't rule that out, but these things, when we saw these things come down in the valley, they were very dark orange and very translucent, and you could actually see through them. And so it's hard to describe, they only came that close once when we first saw them, and we thought, that's when I went to try to capture footage of them. And then, it was about a good 15 or 20 minutes before they reappeared, and we were already on the highway, and we were, frustrated because we didn't think anything else was going to happen. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, these things appeared in my rearview mirror while we were back on the highway again, and I automatically just did a U-turn as fast as I could in my Jeep and just floored it back towards Rachel, trying to catch up to these things. So, I mean, we were kind of in an excited panic trying to figure out what it was that we were witnessing, and we wanted to get real close up to it like we had the first time, and it's like these things just toyed with us, and we would try to get close enough to them, and then they would disappear and reappear on opposite ends of the valley where we had been 15 minutes before. So it was just kind of a trip. And
like a UFO hot pursuit euphoric situation, because when you're dealing with this
euphoric.
Stuff, it's unidentified flying object too. You didn't know what it was. Could it have been military? Yeah, euphoria kicks in, no doubt about it. Well, Nathan, it's been my pleasure to have you on the show. We're gonna share your links and everything on our description so everybody can take a look and check out and go visit in person over there in Utah, the Utah UFO Festival. Nathan, again, when and where is this going to be?
It's going to be June 16th and 17th at Three Peaks Recreation Area. For people who want to find out more details about the fest, they go to utahufofest.org. If they want to book tickets, the tickets are absolutely free to the general public. And that you go to tinyurl.com/Utah Aliens, and you'll be able to book your tickets at that link.
All right, Nathan, get me the link. Good luck with that, and hopefully there's going to be more upcoming Utah Fest in the future, because I got a feeling this is just a small start, because once people get behind a subject matter as important as this, people start to listen. Thanks for joining me, everybody from around the world. Stay tuned for more updates on our Third Phase of Moon YouTube channel. You never know what's going to be coming down the pike. And if you've captured anything amazing, submit it to us right here at Third Phase Moon. Share your videos to us. We'll share it to the world. Blake Cousins, keep your eyes on the skies. And if you see something up there, grab your camera and have a steady hand. We'll see you again next time.